Monaco 64 here, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So it's Tuesday, July 31st, 2018. I've decided to do a live stream here out of the blue. I was just thinking about things, about what's going on in the States with politics, geopolitics, Trump, whether Trump's for real or not. And I've come to the conclusion that nothing will change with Trump and the people we have now in power in the U.S. Not only in the U.S., but the U.S., of course, is the leader of the Western world, and that's why I'm focusing on the U.S. So I see there's a few people coming here. Nacho Cano, hi Nacho. James Fisher's here. Nice to see everyone. I know this is early. I usually do a live stream a lot later, but I decided to do it now. There's Dave Anderson from Byron Bay. That's in Australia, I think. Yeah. So nice to see you here. Sharad Adala. So why did I say DC needs 535 Ron Paul clones? Well, DC, I mean District of Columbia or Washington DC, and in Congress there's 435 representatives and 100 Congress men and women, of course. So the total of congressmen or congresswomen is 535. Yeah, I mean, that would be ideal to have 535 Ron Paul clones. I know Rand Paul is a senator, but I would much rather have Ron Paul. No offense to Rand Paul. I like Rand Paul. I'd rather have people like Ron Paul running everything. And why? Well, because Ron Paul is the only congressman who I've ever heard saying that he's never, ever voted for one spending bill. And he got elected in Texas as a representative by telling people that he was going to do nothing for them. Because we don't need politicians, right? If they do stuff for us, that means they're going to have to tax us and, do what they think is best with our money. And that's why I think we would be great to have 535 Ron Paul clones. Golden Seeds Effects, nice to see you. Yeah, James Scott, I didn't say anything about this live stream. I just decided to do it. Just a second, I got something in my face here. The sun's shining on it. See if that improves it. Yeah, that's better now. I had one of the curtains open and it's quite sunny now. Yeah, I just decided to do this live stream. I had this idea. I've been listening to things about what's going on, and I just thought it'd be good to talk about Ron Paul. And in the context of Donald Trump, a lot of people is there's a lot of debate of whether Trump is a good guy or a bad guy, if he's part of the New World Order or if he's not. I personally don't think, I think he's still playing the game. He might be better. He might be, how can I say, I think he's still part of the New World Order, but he's giving the public a little bit of airtime, so to speak, I would say. And why would I say that? Well, I think it will get a little bit controversial, this subject. And I think the fact that in his press conference with Putin, he actually said that he's a great friend of Bibi Netanyahu of Israel. It just goes to show that he's pro-Zionist, pro-the Zionist agenda. What's the Zionist agenda? I think it's the same agenda as the New World Order. And I'll go into that later on about exactly why. Let's see if we got these nuts thumbed up from Palm Beach at work with headphones. so I got to keep my phone in my pocket while receiving invaluable info. Thanks, sir. Yeah, I just decided to do this live stream right now. Um, so, I mean, in the States, people are probably at work or still quite early in the West Coast, but there's other people as well around the world. In Asia, they're still up. So you can never get everyone at the same time, right? But one of the reasons why London, for example, became a financial center is because it's quite central, and it catches Asia in the beginning of the day. The Asian day is just ending, so we still have contact with Asia, and then it catches the U.S. at the middle of the day. Yeah, that's one of the reasons. Robert Brown from Alabama, Larry Dibble from New York. Nice to see everyone. I want to put a link to the to this video I watched the other day, and it's really interesting. And it's about the Rothschild family. It's right here. I just put that link there, and it's called. Let's have a look. The Hidden Hand of the Rothschild Banking Family. And it's very interesting. A lot of it I knew, a lot of the events they talk about, I know about, but this guy has put it all together and explained why things have happened as they have. And it just goes to show that nothing happens by accident. And one of the viewers of the channel, I think last week or in the last live stream, mentioned that one of the reasons World War I was started was to bring down the Ottoman Empire. And I thought for a minute, I never thought of that, but then I did two and two, added two and two, and I thought, that's right, because what couldn't you have if you had the Ottomans still in power? You couldn't have Israel, right? Because the Ottomans, they ran the whole of the Middle East. Palestine was part of the Ottoman territory. So with the Ottomans or Turks there, you couldn't have a state of Israel. So maybe that's why World War I started. It makes sense. And you have also the Zionist movement was started in 1897 by Theodore Herzl. The Rothschilds were behind that movement. They financed that. 20 years later, you get the Balfour Declaration in 1917, and that was just after the U.S. came into World War I. This guy, a lot of people argued that the Balfour Declaration was what the British would pay the Zionists back for getting the U.S. into World War I to help Britain defeat the Germans. Because I didn't know this, but by 1916, Germany had won the war. There'd been no shot fired on German territory. Germans offered a peace deal to the British and the French to go back to how things were before the war. They didn't want any new territory, and all of a sudden the U.S. comes into the war. So, and then Balfour Declaration was in November. By December, the British forces in Palestine had taken over Jerusalem and Palestine. General Allenby walked into Jerusalem in December, I think December 11th, 1917. So all very interesting. And then with that, World War I, the Treaty of Versailles, all the reparations, that really was what triggered World War II, because it screwed the Germans, and the Germans had a reason to start another war. And then after World War I, you had a reason to build the UN, because the Americans were not interested in the League of Nations. And then with the UN, you got the Jewish state. 1947, they passed the resolution to divide the British protectorate into a Jewish and Arab state. And Very interesting. And looking at all those dates, it makes you wonder. The Federal Reserve, the act was passed in 1913, created, started running in 1914. What did you get in 1914? World War One. What's that got to do with the Fed? Well, the U.S. was the biggest economic power, young power. It had all the resources. So the Fed has been the financing arm of this New World Order agenda, and it's a very long term thing, and that's why I think uh, to think that Trump, and I've thought of that, maybe Trump will abolish the Fed, bring back a gold standard, and maybe he will, but I still think he's in the pockets of these New World Order people, because why would he be so pro-Israeli? Take back, put the embassy back in Jerusalem. And am I saying I'm an anti-Semite? Of course I'm not, because a lot of these Zionists, they're not even Semitic. They're not from the original Jewish homeland in Judea. They're like Eastern European. So, the Rothschilds have blue eyes, they have blonde and red hair. So they don't look like the normal Jew from Judea, right? So this is more a political movement. So I don't know what you guys think about that. I'd like to read your comments. That's what I wanted to talk about. And why would I like 534 Ron Paul clones? Why? Because Ron Paul would bring all the troops back from everywhere around the world, even Israel. He would stop giving aid to Israel. He would, yeah, have relationship with Israel, but he wouldn't be at the mercy of the Zionist movement, in my opinion. He would abolish the Federal Reserve, the financing arm, and that's why Ron Paul was ignored in the '08 election, even though he was doing really well in the primaries. So if Donald Trump was not part of the game, the media could have ignored him, that they didn't, right? So, but Ron Paul was silenced, and that's why it's kind of a joke saying, I want 535 Ron Paul clones, but that's what you really need, a politician that will actually serve the public by following the letter of the law, following the Constitution. And unfortunately, we haven't got that. So let's see here. Omar Ibrahim Afghan, Israel is milking USA, taking, yeah, well, the USA, and before the USA, the Zionist movement used the British, right? Because the British were the world power, and then the baton was passed to America. Maybe it will be passed to the Chinese next, who knows? Helen Go, wow, I'm so lucky today, able to follow your chat finally. Helen Go. Well, you see, some people are saying, oh, I'm at work, I can't follow the chat. So there are some people that prefer this time. Am I going to do my chats always at this time? No, not necessarily. Chuck Delano, Ron Paul knows the pinky index salute. Same as Bush and Cheney and Clinton, all the same. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, Chuck, about a pinky index salute. I still think Ron Paul is, he's the real deal in terms of having someone, protecting individuals' rights and not playing the divide and conquer game. Yes, KVJQXZZ. I agree. It's all about the mechanism that they use, the fractional reserve banking. It doesn't matter if someone is a Jew or a Christian or a Muslim. The mechanism is completely wrong. All I'm talking about is how is it? Am I saying that I'm certain that everything was planned that we've seen in the last 120 years? No, but it looks like a little bit that there are people behind the scenes that kind of guide policy. and the Zionists have been a big part of that. It's not only them, and I don't even think the Rothschilds per se are originally from like they're not even Semitic. They look more European or Eurasian, in my opinion. So it's not about race or anything, but in the end of the day, yeah, central banking is it doesn't matter what religion you are, it's just a fraudulent mechanism. Well, I've never seen Ron Paul do that pinky index salute, and I mean that salute can also be for the University of Texas, the Longhorns. So we could argue about that. Rand Paul was criticized recently for not applauding Netanyahu enthusiastically enough. Uh, Maybe Trump has to play it like that. It cannot be changed all at once, can it? Well, I agree. You know, a lot of people are saying that, but you know, come on. You know, at one point you have to like stand for what you believe in. I know it's dangerous. I've been a Billy McFarland. I've been a Ron Paul fan for a long time. We have the next best thing, Trump, a politician that can't be bought. Takes time to rid the system of graft. I would argue about him not being bought. You know, the most important lobby in the U.S. is APAC, and I'm sorry, he's paid. You know, by putting the U.S. embassy in Jerusalem. You know, that's doing APAC's bidding, but we'll have to see. And the other thing as well, his business empire has a lot of loans to the bankers, not necessarily, you know, I think Deutsche Bank is one of his biggest lenders. So I'm not too sure. I think Ron Paul would be the best, really. For Trump, the verdict's still out. Bill Cooper, yeah, I remember watching Bill Cooper. Interesting guy. He came. I think he died just after 9/11. He exposed everything. JM Carp 98. Trump said he wants to be the most pro-Israel president in U.S. history. Well, there you go. That says it all. Lorraine Weymouth. What happens to mortgages in a reset or collapse? Usually, during Weimar Germany in the hyperinflation, if you had a mortgage, when they reset the system, the mortgage would be reset as well to be as valuable as it was before the system imploded. So, or maybe not. If there's a lot of anger about, you know, the financial system, the financial establishment, they might write it all off. Who knows? But I wouldn't try to speculate on that by taking on a big mortgage right now. I wouldn't advise people to do that because you never know. So, yeah, one of the most interesting things about World War One, and why am I going back to World War One? Well, because I think a lot of things happened there. It made America into, you know, got America started on becoming an empire. And that's something that the founding fathers advised against. I think George Washington is in his farewell address said that the U.S. should avoid foreign entanglements with foreign monarchies and powers, and that's what the U.S. did by going into World War One. And in this video that I put the link of, and I'll put it again here for people to watch it. Right in the beginning, the commentator says that Woodrow Wilson was elected in I think it was 1916, or on the ticket that he wouldn't, or 1912, or sorry, I think he was reelected in 1916 on a ticket that he wouldn't take America into war, right? Because it was very unpopular. More than half Americans were of German descent. German was spoken quite a lot in the US. It could have become the national language if it wasn't for America joining the war in 1917. So I think that was the beginning of, the empire. And yeah, it was a bad move. And what also helped this empire? Well, the central bank, the Federal Reserve. I don't think you could have had an empire without the Federal Reserve, because the Federal Reserve is the financing arm of the empire, the central bank. Because if you don't have a central bank, the public is not going to finance an empire, because the public is against empire. The public wants to be at peace with the rest of the world. Aaron Levy. Hi, Aaron. Nice to see you. Yeah, Billy's joined today, but he's fallen asleep on the Canadian. He's got his head against the maple leaf almost. Yeah, I have that Smedley Butler book. War is a Racket is a great book. Not a long book. Recommend people read that. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, that's right. JMC Carp 98. You can't have world wars or very big long wars without central banks, because wars are too expensive. You need a really good excuse for the public to finance these wars. So if you can't get the public to finance these wars, you get the central bank to finance it, and you spread the cost of it over generations through inflation, right? And that's what's been done. And that's why we need to get rid of central banks. And that's why, until I see President Trump going after the Federal Reserve, and by going after the Federal Reserve, I don't mean putting the people that he wants in the board. I mean by abolishing it. We need to abolish the Federal Reserve, or have it abolished, the Federal Reserve Act. But if we had 535 Ron Pauls in Congress, that would have been done already. Of course, it's only like a joke that I said that, we need 535 Ron Paul clones. But it just goes to show how voting doesn't really matter right now, because 99.9% of all these 535 people are in the pockets of the financial system and the central banking paradigm. So by voting, all you're going to do is perpetuate the system, unless you get young people coming in running on a ticket to abolish the Federal Reserve. Maybe someone should start a party, end the Fed party. Well, they tried that, didn't they? The Tea Party. But what's happened to the Tea Party has been kind of hijacked by President Trump, by Donald Trump. Aaron Levy, what's your opinion on how long we will take for the U.S. 10-year to breach 3% for good? Well, we're right near there at the moment. We got up to 298 recently, yesterday, and today it's dropped a little bit. It's at 295. It could be, on Friday after the non-farm payroll numbers. Things could change. Am I saying non-farm payroll numbers are for real? No, but the markets look at them. Adam Kokesh. Yeah, I've seen Adam Kokesh. Interesting guy. JM Carp 98. Is there any truth to these financial elites being Luciferians? Ted Gunderson, a former FBI agent, makes a strong case for this. Well, I think what it is that these people don't care about the suffering and the misery that the system creates. They, they think of the profits that they can make from wars. So, and the money that they can make for their families. Even a lot of times, members of their families die in these wars. Um, I, I personally wouldn't feel comfortable about making millions by selling arms. I think it's a bad thing. So, yeah, I don't like to, I don't know. I think a lot of you can't say that everyone that's involved in banking is like that, but the top guys, yeah, I would say so. It is a fight against good against evil. We need to maybe focus more on cooperation and peace instead of war and conflict, right? And but the what makes that possible? All these wars, the loan wars. Well, the fiat money system does. So that's the first thing we need to stamp out. But I don't know. I mean, I can't say if you know these people. Yeah, they have a different view of things. Uh, yeah, like most people don't want to have wars, but yeah, it's the best business, isn't it? You look at you read Smedley Butler's book, see how much profits go up during wars. Yeah, it's sad. It's not good. Golden Seeds effects. Hi, Mario. What is your view on the expected rise in U.S. Fed funds rate in 2018, 2019, and the potential impact? Well, I think what's going to happen is that before we get to 2019 or maybe towards the middle of that year, things will have imploded already, and they'll have to switch around. I think the only reason they're raising rates is that they know that the economy is going to like kill over again, and they need rates to be a little higher so they can cut them again, right? So it's like that's what's happening with the Fed. Lorraine Weymouth, don't you think that's what China and Russia want? Peace and good trade links? I do, I do, but yeah, I do. But I think they're playing the guys in charge in those countries uh, are kind of playing the game as well. Um, and maybe they have no choice because they do if they don't build their military they won't be able to remain independent, right? But I think that's what they want. I mean, that's what the US says they want. The US says they want democracy and the rule of law, right? But yeah, I don't believe that. But I think China and Russia are more genuine in terms of what they want, that they want peace and trade links, but they want power too. So the Turkish jihad mentality is a world dominating culture. They have their own version of a new world order. Yeah, I mean, this is all like divide and conquer, isn't it? We're divided into blocks. Um, they're all like fanatical, these people, be it in the East or West, and it's a shame. Helen Gomara, where I work, my management embraces Jewish mindset and principles and recently set up Jewish Business Academy to impart their expertise to business owners here in Southeast Asia. Is this good or bad? Well, I don't really know. Never heard of a Jewish mindset, and I'm not trying to talk about. I mean, uh, Judaism is a religion, so it's not. I don't know. I've never heard of the Jewish business principles, so that's interesting. I mean, they are successful. A lot of people who call themselves Jewish. So Ben Gray, lying by my dad's pool, watching my girl swim and listening to Monaco 64 in the sunshine. Excellent midday treat. Nice one, Mario. Ha! Oh, you're welcome. JMC Carp 98. Trump is going to be the fall guy for the economy. Possible. Being Jewish is a race thing. They require DNA tests in order to get Israeli citizenship. Well, yeah, it could be a race thing, but I thought, Judaism was like a religion. But anyway, so yeah, you can convert. I thought that your mother needed to be Jewish as well. I have a cousin who's converted to Judaism. So there you go. So yeah, a little bit about the title. If some of you have come late, the 535 Ron Paul clones. All I mean by that is that we need a lot smaller government and a lot less interference in world affairs for the U.S. And why do I always focus on the U.S.? Well, because I think if the U.S. followed their constitution, I think the world would be a much better place, because I think the Constitution is a great document. And even though I'm not American, I I respect the Constitution. But right now we don't have that. And Ron Paul would bring back small government. He would bring back all the troops from abroad. America has military bases all over the world. America doesn't need that. It would unwind all the New World Order agenda of the last 100 years if we had 535 Ron Pauls. Yeah, I think that's the only way to make America great again, to have limited government, sound money, and abolish the Federal Reserve. Unfortunately, that seems to be far away from the scene right now. So let's see. Yeah, we haven't got that many people right now, only 63. Usually I get about 200. So I'll stay for another 10 minutes or so. Take some more of your questions, and then I'll call it a day, if you don't mind. Trump does not want to be like Samson and bring the temple down on his head. Yeah, some people, yeah, I don't, that's the other thing I was thinking about, the Middle East and that part of the world, the Holy Land as they call it. Why is it, why do they make it so important? Uh, is it, and I think it's more of a cover. They use the religion as a cover. And why is it important though? I think the importance of the Middle East in that area is because it's a bridge between Asia and Europe. And if you can control that area of the world, you can control Asia. You can control Asia and Europe, right? And and someone who wrote about that was a British like academic in the 19th century, Mackinder. He wrote about geopolitics. He said whoever had control of Eurasia would have control of the world. And I think that's more, I think, Israel or Greater Israel is just the project of having control of the Middle East, of having control of the world. Because you control that area, you control all the trade from Asia to Europe, right? Because you've got the pipelines, you've got the Suez Canal, you've got the Persian Gulf, the Mediterranean, the Black Sea. I think that's what it's about. It's not about the place being holy. You could put those temples anywhere, really, in my opinion. And So that's what I think, because I kind of wonder why do they want a piece of desert? Because it's really not very hospitable, that area. James Fisher, I think Trump is a narcissist. You could be right about that. Yeah, he's very arrogant, uh, and he's very full of himself. Azure, look up Greater Israel Project. Yeah, I'll have a look at that. So another question here from Chuck Delano. Why is DC built like Rome? Well, I guess it was maybe because the people behind that knew already that it was going to become an empire. And that's a bit weird, because you would have thought, with Washington's warning about not becoming an empire, why would it give he give his name to the city? It's weird. I don't know. So just a couple of more questions, and we'll call it a day. James Scott, trouble is, the more I know, the more I don't like economics, Jesuits, etc. Trouble is, once you learn it, you can't unlearn it. That's right. A lot of times I tell myself I wish I didn't know all these things. But I think in a way it's good to know what actually goes on. It helps you. I'd rather be have the knowledge than be ignorant. uh, KVJQXZZ at James Scott, just drink more whiskey. Yeah. Billy McFarland, if Hillary won, we all would be in deep doo-doo. She's evil. I'm thankful we have Trump. All politicians are hubris. Thank God we don't have Barry in there anymore. How's the UK doing? Well, I think Obama, Hillary, or Bush, they're all in the same club. The UK, well, I don't know. It's not doing great either, like the US. I don't think the US is doing great either. You're getting a lot of comments. Trump is coming out saying, I'm going to punish European car makers, and then he makes a deal. He's talking up the stock market. He's using the same statistics Obama used to talk up the economy, and he's running huge debts for Americans. So I actually think the UK is not doing well, but I don't think we're running as much debt as Trump is running. So in the end of the day, am I saying the UK is doing well? No, but I don't think the US is doing any better. No, and Trump might come out and sound up yeah, we need to see more action. And I'm not saying Hillary is good. I've known about Hillary and Bill Clinton and what they did in Arkansas. I've known that for years, way before the last election. But people used to call me a conspiracy theorist when I used to talk about that. I knew about all the drug running in Arkansas for the CIA that Governor Clinton used to do, all that. So there you have it. So one last question, Simon King, what is the best crypto right now? Well, I think it's always good to have Bitcoin because that's like the bellwether. Personally, I like EOS. It hasn't been doing too well lately, but that's my favorite. But it's not financial advice. So thanks everyone for showing up for this impromptu live stream. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll just log off right now, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good rest of the day. Take care. Bye.